السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. هنروح مونارتو زو في أديليد، وهي على مساحة 1500 هكتار، اوبن رينج مفتوحة، يعني في أسوار قليلة، وهي تبعد عن أديليد حوالي 70 كيلومتر. أديليد هي عاصمة مدينة جنوب استراليا، وعملنا فيها حلقات هتلاقيها موجودة في القناة وتقدر توصل لها. النهاردة هنشوف الزو مع بعض ومع تعليقات سواق الباص، فيا رب تستمتعوا معانا. اتفضلوا.
Food or drink, we ask you put it away with the exception of bottled water. If you've got a mobile telephone, please turn it to silent just for the comfort of other people. We're going to head down towards our first habitat, but on the way you can look out the right hand side of the bus and you can see our upside down rhino. The statue was originally at Bondi Beach, a sculpture at Bondi Beach. She's there to just give you a bit of an idea about the plight of rhinos in the wild, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. Also on the right hand side, Wallaby Gorge, our only walk through habitat. If you do walk through, you'll see our wonderful yellow-footed rock wallaby. And on the left-hand side, you'll see our chimps. So to be able to see the chimps, you have to walk down. You can't see the chimps from the bus. We have 10 chimps, 5 males and 5 females, ranging in age from 3 right through to 40. So it's really worth the effort to walk down to the chimps. Now, Zoos SA is a not-for-profit charity organisation, and what we're about is obviously giving you a good experience here, but we're about conservation of species and connecting people like yourselves with nature. That's really important. So we don't get funded by government. We basically self-fundraise, and you people coming here today, you're really helping us with that conservation effort, which is really, really important. And I'll tell you why. The first species of animal that we're going to see are actually, or were, extinct in the wild. Okay, so these animals, and everyone's looking around saying, what animals? We'll find them in a minute, hopefully. I can see them up in the next paddock. So we'll wander around, and the first of the animals that we're going to see are from the Asian steppes, the Gobi Desert, and they're called Przeworski's wild horses or Mongolian wild horses. As I say, they were extinct in the wild back in the 1960s. Fortunately, zoos around the world had some stocks of these animals, and one of the zoos that did have stocks was here at Monnarto. And back in the 90s, along with Dubbo Zoo, or Western Plains as it's now called, and other zoos around the world, we introduced some of these animals back into the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. And in fact, there are now some 350 of them in the wild. So a creature that's been saved from being extinct in the wild to now existing in the wild again, which is really, really fantastic. So there we go, out the right-hand side of the bus, you'll see the Przeworski's wild horses or the Mongolian wild horse. You can see they're quite a bit different from a domestic horse. They're a little bit smaller, a little bit more squat. Okay, they're a little bit shorter. You can see that upright mane. They're all that sandy colour. The really interesting thing about them is they can't be tamed. Their DNA is just that little bit different from a domestic horse. You can't put a saddle on and you can't ride them. So we're not going to have a Mongolian wild horse beating winks in the Melbourne Cup. You say that lady down here said about they're similar to a Norwegian fjording horse. There are actually cave paintings of these animals in France. Okay, so now and in recent times, carbon dated to that time, so I assume that they would have all came, yes, absolutely separated off a bit. And the other interesting thing is, along with the cave paintings of these animals, the next animals that we're going to see, but I can see one straight in front of us, were also in the same cave paintings in France. And these now are only in North America, the North American bison. Or buffalo, whichever you want. So they did exist side by side in Europe many, many years ago, but obviously during an ice age there's been a land bridge or something similar, and they've separated off to be in totally different places. If you look out to the right hand side, and we'll head over that way, see one over here all on the lonesome, and a few out to the other side. Back in the 1800s and before, there were some 50 or 60 million of these creatures roaming the plains in North America. The European people came along and decided that they would try to control the indigenous Indian population, and the way that they did that was to control the buffalo, the bison. So they hunted them, and they reduced their numbers from 50 million or thereabouts. There was less than 1,000 of these animals left, which is incredible. So, from less than to less than 1,000 after the 50 or 60 million, it's quite incredible. Thankfully, President Roosevelt, at the turn of the previous century, decided that Yellowstone National Park would be fantastic, and that's what they did. They brought Yellowstone National Park in, and these animals were saved. Look at the little foal there, little calf, should I say. See that really light brown colour? And those of you that are on the left-hand side of the bus, if you want to stand up to be able to see, that's fine, hemisphere. We're around about 1,500 hectares, but the area that you get to see is around about 250 hectares. So we do have a lot of what we call behind the scenes or off-limits area, and a lot of that area is basically in front of us and to the right of us just now. Now sometimes as we drive past this area we might see an animal, but there's no guarantees. The reason we have that off-limits or behind-the-scenes area, we might have to give the animals a bit of a spell from the buses driving around and all that sort of stuff, if they're breeding, if they need quarantine, that type of thing. So we do have plenty of space here at Mونارتو, which is really fantastic. See these gates, they open a little bit slowly. They're all solar powered. We try to make sure that we reduce our fossil fuel consumption, and we use solar power quite extensively out here, and we'll see that in just a minute. Now if you look right out to the right behind the trees, you might see a couple of Chapman zebra. Now this is behind the scenes or off limits, so we will see them a little bit later on as well. And there's a number of Chapman zebra over there. As I say, we do use solar power, and this is our Zen solar farm, sponsored by the Zen Solar Corporation. On a good sunny day we'll power around about 10 to 12 domestic houses, which is fantastic. Whatever we don't use is fed back into the grid. So again, even though Mونارتو is a fairly brown, dusty place, we try to be as green as possible. Now, have a look out the right-hand side of the bus in the moat, or just behind the moat. You'll be able to see one of our beautiful black rhinoceros. We've got two species of rhino here at Mونارتو, and we'll stop just around the corner so you can get another good look. We have two species of rhino here at Mونارتو. And the black rhinoceros is this one. I can tell that's a male black rhinoceros. You might say, how can I tell that's a male from this angle and from this distance? It's quite simple, really simple. We only have males. We have two boys. You can just see him. We'll just stop for a minute, see if he moves. This is the one of the wonderful features about animals. They do exactly what they want to do. We can't script them to do anything different. So the black rhino is critically endangered in the wild. The reason that this animal is critically endangered, and white rhinos are also endangered, but the reason this animal is critically endangered is because of the horn. And the horn is keratin, which is much like your hair or your fingernails. Has no medicinal values, but some people think, some cultures believe that there are medicinal values in the horn, and that's why on the black market it's worth more than gold and worth more than heroin, which is absolutely stunning. So sadly, this animal is in all sorts of bother in the wild. There are not many left at all. We only have one here out at a time. The reason we don't put them both out together is that males they're very solitary animals, and yeah, they are territorial, and they will fight if we put them in together, so we just don't put them in together. They're quite a bit, it has a very wide lip and it grazes like a cow. This animal, the black rhino, will grow to about 1.2 tonnes, where the white rhino about 2.3, 2.4 tonnes, so quite a size difference as well, as you'll see in just a minute. See that pile there? You might say, why are you pointing out a pile of rhino poop? Well, that's called a midden. They do their business in the same spot all the time. They can tell what other animals have been through, even to the stage where the males can tell what female is ready to mate. So that's sort of like Rhino's version of Facebook. Okay, now here we go. We've come away from rhinos, and we've got deer and antelope in here, and let me just get myself a little bit closer to be able to tell. We can see on the left hand side at the feeding trough we've got some Mesopotamian fallow deer. Yeah, absolutely. So just to the left hand side, Mesopotamian fallow deer that come from those war-torn areas, Lebanon, Syria. And there's not really, we don't really know how many of them are left in the wild because of the issue of not being able to count them. Over in the distance just here, in the sort of mid-distance, we've got the black buck, or Indian antelope. And we've got a really, really big treat here, because if you look now directly in front of the bus, and as we come around to the right-hand side, we very, very rarely see these animals. These are two of our wonderful bongo. They're an African antelope. They're very shy, and it's rare for them to be this close to the fence, to be able to see them this close. So we'll just stop here for just a minute. They're from the rainforest areas. You can see those beautiful horns that sweep back. Wonderful stripes, aren't they? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you noticed in the visitor centre, there's a skin of a bongo there. You can go and feel what a bongo feels like. I've been lucky enough to feed those guys, and they are really, really cool up close. I've got a question about the deer and the horns. Okay, well, first of all, deer have antlers, and only the male will have antlers, the breeding male. And he's right over in the distance over there being fed. And that's the fastest growing tissue in the animal kingdom, the antlers of a deer. Got the black buck right in front of us, or the Indian antelope. Yeah, so the fastest growing tissue in the animal kingdom is that antler of the deer. It grows in about 110 days. So that's pretty fast. From nothing, it drops off after the breeding season, and then it grows back within 110 days. It's coming up, and that's the water hole. Now what I would suggest, if you want to see the Tassie Devils up close, now the Tassie Devil talk would have started by now. You can hop off here. And if you want to go and walk out onto the platform and have a look at the giraffe and other African animals, you can hop off here. Otherwise you can remain with us, and when we get to the next bus stop, we'll be around about in time for the keeper talk for the white rhino. So you decide what you want to do, whether you want to get off here or at the next stop, or in Africa. And we do have a water hole in it. Last week when I was here it had water in it. I'm not sure if it will today. Might have evaporated. Here at Mmonarto we get around about 300 mils of rain every year, which is not a lot. And we don't supplement the water into the water hole. So if it dries up, it dries up. There's not much we can do about it. Obviously the water is available in troughs for the animals, so there's no issue there. But we don't deliberately fill up the water hole.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, well.
Now if we have a look out to the right, we'll see a number of our wonderful giraffe, and a couple of zebra, and quite a few ostrich, and even a couple of eland, and we'll talk about them all. First of all, the giraffe, tallest of the land animals. Males grow up to about 6 metres, females around about 5 metres. All of their coats are different. Females give birth standing up, so it's quite a drop for a young giraffe. And if you can see the giraffe here that's feeding on the right hand side, if you look on the right hand side of her neck, you can see she's got quite a bump or a kink in her neck. Her name is Kinky for that reason. When she was born, her mother for some reason gave birth sitting down rather than standing up. And we're not sure how that happened, but that vertebrae right at the top actually was displaced. It doesn't seem to have harmed her in any way. She is not in any discomfort with it. She copes with it quite well. She's about 18 years old. She's had calves of her own, so it really hasn't done any harm to her. If you can see when she sticks her tongue out, that wonderful blue tongue, that colour to stop the sunburn, because the giraffe's tongue spends such a long time out of their mouth when they're browsing. And the Chapman zebra right there as well. Again, their stripes are different on every animal, so much so that when a zebra is born, the foal will stand and the mother will put her rear end towards the foal, so the pattern of the mother imprints on the brain of the young one. And if there's a stampede or whatever, the young one knows which one in front to follow. Over to the left, those antelope, they're eland. Wonderful African antelope. Now the animals aren't in any particular danger. In fact, they're farmed quite extensively in Africa. One of the reasons that they're farmed is their milk can stay unrefrigerated for up to about 3 days. So in those areas without electricity, that's a really, really important animal to sustain people.
I need a couple of them in the trailer.
And again, a number of our giraffe. Giraffe are really, really interesting. I know a lot of ladies that I've had on buses through the time that I've been here comment about the eyelids of the and the eyelashes of the giraffe. And if you can have a look at Kinky there and the other giraffe there, whose name I just have no idea right at the moment. You can see they've got really, really long eyelashes. And again, over to the right, you can see the ostrich, the black ostrich with the white tail and tips on their wings, or the remnants of their wings. They're the males. There's a grey one around somewhere right up in the distance over there on the right. The grey one is the female. Now we've only got one female in here at the moment. She seems to spend quite a bit of her time running.
هنا هنروح نشوف وحيد القرن أو الخرتيت، وموجود منه او الراينو يعني موجود منه 3 في الحديقة. طبعا وزنه بالأطنان، سبحان الله. حيوان وحيد القرن من الحيوانات اللي على وشك الانقراض. في منه النوع الأبيض وده وزنه بيوصل ل 2300 كيلو، وفي النوع الأسود بيوصل من 800 ل 1400 كيلو، وفي النوع الهندي بيوصل إلى 2100 كيلو. سرعة الراينو الأبيض أو يعني وحيد القرن الأبيض 50 كيلومتر في الساعة. الراينو الأسود أو وحيد القرن الأسود 55 كيلومتر في الساعة. ووحيد القرن الهندي بيوصل سرعته 55 برضو كيلومتر في الساعة. أعماره للأبيض من 40 ل 50 سنة، الأسود من 35 ل 50 سنة. عادة الخرتيت ضعيف البصر، لكن عنده حاسة السمع والشم قوية جدا جدا جدا، بتساعده انه يوصل لأهدافه، وهو طبعا بياكل خضروات. دي الحارسة المسؤولة عن رعاية وحيد القرن أو أكتر من واحد يعني موجودين، وهتبتدي تكلمنا عنهم وتشرح لنا معلومات وإزاي هم بيعتنوا بيهم وتفاصيل عن حياتهم.
Hi guys, how you going? A few more minutes to wait for a few. Out on display here we have our 3 adult females and our 1 very young calf. So Amani is the little one. She was only born about 2.5 months ago, so she's still very tiny, but if we put it in perspective, she is about 200 kilos. So we did actually weigh her for the first time yesterday, and she weighed 200 kilos, which is actually about 1/10 of what an adult male rhino is. So they weigh about 2 tons. So the big boy out on exhibit today is Satara. He is actually the father of Amani. So in the wild, the females will all group together in small groups like this, 2 or 3, but they are generally quite antisocial. So they don't love each other and cuddle up to each other, but they use each other for protection. So that's the main reason why they would group together. Down here in front, we have Savannah on the left-hand side. She's our youngest adult female. She's only about 5 years old. And on the right-hand side, we have Ahura. And Ahura has had 4 calves here at Mmonarto, but it is Umkwali who's the mum. As you can see, Amani sits very close to Umkwali. So she's actually very protective of Amani, even from the other females. So for about the first month, she didn't let these 2 females come anywhere near them. And actually, she's been such a good protective mum. She really has kept everyone away. She didn't really even like us being around. So we kind of let them have their space. They were out on exhibit for the first month that whole time. But it's really nice for us to be able to move them into this area because it also gives the boys a bit of a run too. So we do have another adult male, Abuto. He is in our bomas at the back here. So what we do is we rotate all of our males and females around. In the wild, the females will move around and a male will have a territory. So The males will have marked their territories with middens, and a midden is basically a big pile of poo that every rhino in the area poos in that same spot. There is actually a midden on the other side of this area that we do actually clean up every day, but all of the rhino will poo in that back left-hand corner. When you get back on the bus, you'll see, as you go past the exhibit, you will see the middens out there. We do leave them out there. It's a nice big area, so we can let them kind of communicate. So that is how they communicate with each other. So a male will go around and check his middens every morning, and he might taste what another rhino has left for him. It does sound a bit gross, but it's a really awesome way of communicating with animals without having to come face to face with them. So he can taste that, he'll be able to tell whether they're male or female, he'll be able to tell if the females are in season, which is a really awesome thing for him to be able to do, because if the females are not in season, he is not going to go anywhere near him. Although the females run at about 1,500 kilos, so quite a bit less than what he would be, he is outnumbered. So 3 females definitely outnumber 1 male, and they will bully him out of his own territory if he's not careful. If the females are in season, he's going to go up and kind of greet them. He'll let them know that he's in the area, he's going to read their signs, he's going to give them the signs that he wants to make with them, and then hopefully that process usually takes about a week, a little courting process, and then if all goes well, the female allows the male to mate them. So the males do actually at this point have to get their head all the way up onto the female's rump. So you can see that's Savannah standing looking at us there. Their head is really heavy. It's one of the heaviest parts of their body, and most of the time they have it sitting basically on the ground. They are grazers. They're going to eat a lot of grass. They don't need to lift their head up much, but they have this really awesome muscle which sits between the back of their skull and their shoulder blades. You can see actually she's going to lift her head and it's going to contract up, and it basically becomes like a big hump. So the males have that really big beautiful muscle. He's going to engage that muscle, lift his head all the way up onto the female's rump and hopefully mate them. And then it's 16 months later the calf is on the ground. So it's a really long process for rhinos. It takes a really long time for them to rebuild population. So, and then the calf is actually with its mum for about 4 or 5 years before she'll have another calf. So it takes a really long time. They put a lot of energy into their calves. And you can actually see, if Kylie was standing up, and actually you can almost see, oh no, not at the moment. So they have this big udder underneath. The calf is drinking a huge amount of milk every day and gaining between, about 10 kilos a day, which is a huge growth rate until they reach at about 1,000 kilos. And then it kind of, the growth rate's very gradual up to about 4 years of age, when they might be able to breed 4 or 5. So the males do take a little bit longer to mature, so they won't be of breeding age until they're about 7 or 8. And actually our younger male, Abutho, who's only in his early 20s, he actually hasn't been a successful breeder yet, and we think that's just because he's quite young. Rhinos can live for about 50 years, so they're a really long-lived species. Satara was actually a wild caught rhino. He's the big boy out on exhibit, you will see. So he's a really good breeder, and it's really great that we are able to breed with him because his genetics are so strong. He's got those wild genetics. And it's really awesome that we can breed them here. So Omani is so special to us because unfortunately in the wild these guys are a threatened species, and actually all rhino are suffering from this same thing, but white rhino especially are quite vulnerable because they graze out in open areas. So unlike the black rhino, which you might have seen, we do have 2 male black rhino here at Mmonarto too. They are more browsers, so they're going to be eating leaves and things, so they're going to be in more thickly dense bush. The main difference between the white rhino and the black rhino is quite a bit smaller. They're also much more skittish, so if you approach a black rhino, they're going to run off. Whereas the white rhino is not afraid of anything because they're so big. They don't have to worry about really anything except for when they're about the age Hermione is. So they don't really have to worry about large carnivores because they're really well protected by their size. So that also makes them really vulnerable to poachers, and unfortunately they're poaching them for their beautiful big horn, and their horn is an amazing size. So the horn is thought to have medicinal properties in some cultures. Unfortunately, this is actually not at all true. The horn is made up of basically just hair particles. So even when they're wearing their horn down, so every day you'll see them kind of grinding, and actually before I got here you would have seen Ahura over here kind of rubbing her horn on the gate there. So that's just something they do every day. They're wearing it away, and actually bits of it's kind of like hair-like particles. So they're just really compressed hair. It's the same thing as our hair, same thing as our fingernails. So if you think that rhino horn's gonna kind of cure your cold, you might as well just chew on your big thumb. But it's really sad that this is the reason, and because of that it's really highly sought after. It's really it goes for a very high price, and unfortunately there's only about 20,000 white rhino left in the wild, and they're not even they're really killing any animal they can get their hands on. So even a young calf the age of Imani are threatened by poachers because they'll cut the horn out of her head, which is really horrific. The other thing is they are targeting orphanages, so where they've killed the mum for the horn and left the calf. All the calves get collected together and looked after in these beautiful orphanages. And unfortunately they're targeting orphanages and killing all of the calves in that area, which is so devastating because, again, so much energy. Their lifespan is so long, it's so hard to replenish. So just by coming to the zoo today, you are helping these guys. We're a non-for-profit conservation charity. So some money from your ticket goes to many conservation projects, not just overseas ones, but ones here in South Australia as well. If you would like to do a little bit more, we are doing this awesome grassroots program called Beads for Wildlife. We're selling these beautiful beaded products. There's keychains, necklaces. I've got some here if you'd like to check them out. They're only $9 a piece. They're made by some ladies in northern Kenya. They make the products, they send them to us, we sell them, and we send all the money back to them. So there's no middleman. You know that the money's going to a really good place. We look into all our conservation projects, and they're helping these guys on the ground by providing ranges. So ranges in areas where there might be not that many rhino around, so it might be one ranger per rhino will follow the rhino around. And actually they're putting themselves in danger because what's happening is the same amount of rangers are being killed on the ground as rhinos are, because they don't have any regard for human or animal life, and the poachers will kill the humans as well as the rhinos. So the other thing that the Beads for Wildlife program does is it provides a life insurance policy to families that are working as rangers. So if they die in the line of duty, they'll provide money for schooling or increase their standard of living and things like that. So it's a really awesome project. If you want more information, feel free to come up and ask. Otherwise, have a lovely day at the zoo. Feel free to stick around. These girls are gorgeous, and because these two have moved off, the other two may pop over, but you can't really force a rhino to do anything they don't want to do. But have a lovely day at the zoo and enjoy. Thanks, guys.
To the right of your bus, you can see the two doggies running up and down the fence. They will be receiving treats as soon as the tour starts. Vaccinated for rabies or parvo or other domestic dog diseases, they actually die from it. You can't vaccinate wild dogs against domestic dog diseases. So just say my dog went into a clan of African planted dogs and infected one of them. Clans are up to 95 and they'll lose almost 5 within 1 year. So we're doing a lot of work. Two up here we've got 4. I can see two on the top of the hill, and I've got two down here. So we're very, yeah, you can stand up if you can't see, there's no stops. We're very lucky here at the zoo. We're the only zoo in Australia that has female hyenas, so we're the only ones that can breed them. We have twin 1-year-olds and a 2-year-old, so we've got 3 toddlers in the mix here. Yeah, it's the first day they've had a carcass in a really long time, so they're all very possessive of it today. So you can see from this one walking, much longer front legs, which makes them quite powerful and quite quick. Very stocky, very strong. They have the second largest jaw to power ratio after attaching level, so they can get through every part of the feed that they have, including bone. And the only thing they can't eat is the hair and hooves, and that's because it gets stuck and they have to spit it back out. I think they're cute. I reckon Lion King's given them a very bad rap. I think they're gorgeous. Look at that one looking. Beautiful. Alright, I'll get everyone to take a seat. We'll go find some lions. Alright, you can stand up now on this side if you want to have a look. So we might be changing the girls and the boys over so the boys can go out here. Oh yeah, they're all good. No, maybe thinking about it.
They're very lean and muscle, aren't they?
So they're going to go through a gateway through there. We can measure them, we can weigh them, we can give them medicine. That's cool. Do you want to stand up and have a look?
They look healthy. So muscly, aren't they?
Just so you know, I've been, as I said, here 4 years. I've never seen this happen where they're all really excited and going in. So every day's a treat here at Monarto. Something different every day. Here they go. This one's just like, you can wait for me. Thank you very much.
Just normally you see them, they're just lying down.
Alright, I'll get everyone to sit down. We'll move on.
So you can see, and a little bit about their conservation as well. So we will move across to the lion platform shortly, but just starting over this side, we've got 2 exhibits. So we've got the big large one here, if you've been on the bus or if you're going to hop on the bus afterwards, that's where the buses go through. And right down in front of us, you should be able to see 2 African painted dogs. They look quite small in amongst this massive exhibit, but I'll talk a little bit about what we're trying to do with them. And then over to the front left, there's a smaller exhibit, and in there we've actually got 6 spotted hyenas. So the best way to see them is on the shuttle bus, so if you haven't been on there, do hop on afterwards. You can see a bit of movement there. I'll just start by talking about the hyenas, since we can actually see one standing before they all go and sit in the shade. We've got 6 here at Monarto Zoo. There's only 14 in the whole of Australia, so not many. More zoos are wanting to house spotted hyenas and to be able to tell people about them. So if I was to ask anybody what they thought of spotted hyenas, most people screw their face up and think of them as a horrible, smelly, scavenging animal. And if The Lion King or the movie The Life of Pi are your interpretations of spotted hyena, it's all wrong. So Lion King, people who made The Lion King just want the spotted hyenas to be just how they are, all crazy and lunatic and all the rest, but they're not like that at all. So the way that spotted hyena societies are set up in Africa is that it's a dominant female and males are lower than the lowest ranked female. It's quite a good setup, I think. It has all the females and then all the males. But it's multiple females will breed in a clan. They're highly intelligent animals. Their intelligence has been compared to that of the larger apes. So if you go and see the chimps today, keepers do a lot of training and conditioning with the chimps. We can do that as well with our hyenas. So they will present their leg for hand injections, so it's not stressful if we have to do vet procedures. They'll open their mouth, we can see their teeth, and they actually quite like having a scratch. So they're the only of the carnivore species, other than the cheetah I suppose, that will actually come up to us, plonk themselves at the fence, and we can give them a good scratch through the fence. We still are careful of course at the bitey end, because their bite pressure is just amazing. They eat through everything, but they are also got that intelligence, so I think they know not to bite our fingers, because you know then scratches are going to end. So Our group of 6 that are here, we've got 3 adult females. Our oldest one is 21. Lifespan in spotted hyena in captivity is up to around 30. She is getting up there in age and she's a little bit slower than the others. And then she's got her daughter and her granddaughter in there. So that's, who have we got? That's not the oldest female, that's her daughter, Forrest. So you might see them mingling around, but they're further down the other end. And we've also got 3 youngsters. So the granddaughter has a set of twins who are about 15 months old. And then this one at the fence has a 1-year-old cub. So multiple females will birth at the same time. They have communal dens, and so the cubs will grow up together. Now the reason that they're staying down the far end, and the reason I'm saying to go on the bus to see them best, is this morning we actually gave them a big carcass feed. So they loved that. We chained it to a tree, they all grabbed and pulled bits off, and they all went into a den. So there's a den down there that I haven't seen more than 2 hyena go into, and this morning 5 went into it. So I don't know how they fitted with the carcass, it was pretty impressive. So there's bones and all sorts going on, so it's keeping them amused for the day. So we don't have a breeding male here at the moment. There are 2 male spotted hyena down at Adelaide Zoo if you go down there. And if you go down there on a hot day, you'll just about be guaranteed to see those 2 hyena in the moat down there. They absolutely love water. So we can hose them down. They do have a pond where that big tree is. There's one sitting down there now. But those ones at Adelaide actually will swim around in the water. So a lot of things that people don't really know about hyenas, and they're pretty cool animals when you get up close with them. Now the 2 African painted dogs that you can see in front of us here, we've got 4 male dogs as well, which are through the back of the trees that direction. We've got night quarters there. So we have been doing fence contact in order to introduce the 4 males to the 2 females. And we did that yesterday. So these 2 groups of animals had fence contact for about 5 weeks, and we'd watched the behaviours and that all looked quite positive. We did a full introduction yesterday. It didn't really go to plan, and the males seemed quite aggressive towards the females. So we've separated them, and you'll see with these 2 girls, if you see them walk around, one's got a little bit of a limp on her front right leg. So we're just monitoring that. They're both on antibiotics and pain relief just in case, and so we're going to have to rethink our introductions. So African painted dogs are quite complex in their societies. It's a dominant pair, a breeding pair. So with hyenas, multiple females can breed. With African painted dogs, it's 1 female, and she'll suppress the other females from actually cycling. They only breed once per year. Hyenas can breed all year round, lions as well, but dogs is just once per year. And in Australia, that's usually around March or April. So we're hoping also once these girls start to cycle, we can have a better chance of introducing males to them, when the males should want the females at that point. They can live in packs of up to 20 in Africa. With that 1 breeding pair, and they can have up to 16 puppies in 1 litter. So 1 female can pop out 16 of them. We have had 14 puppies once before. That was back in 2008. And so they're quite a difficult species to manage in captivity, because if you have a litter that large, suddenly you're at capacity, and then you have to sort of, manage and not breed again for another year or so. So we do really hope to have a breeding group again. If you've visited the zoo many years ago, we used to have a pack of 19 and 20 males out here. They just look so impressive, so awesome running around. So it's just going to take us a bit of time to sort of build up the numbers. They all move off to other zoos. Yeah, we sent off 8 to Werribee and some more to Dubbo, and we do swaps and things as well. So yeah, they gradually sort of disintegrated, and now we're starting to build up again. Now African painted dogs in Africa, there's only a few thousand left. So 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, not many at all. Spotted hyenas, on the other hand, are one of the most abundant carnivores. They are hugely tough animals, and because they are hunters, they are also scavengers, and they can make a meal out of just the bones that are left behind from a carcass. So that's what's happening with the carcass out there. There'll be nothing left of it. Whereas with dogs and lions, they'll leave the bones behind. So I think hyenas will be the last remaining carnivore left. There's around 40,000 spotted hyenas, so one of the more abundant ones. But they're all facing the same plight. So the problem in Africa is habitat loss, more and more villages breaking up their habitat. The painted dogs have such a large home range, 1,200 square kilometres, so they need to have that area with their right kind of prey in there as well to hunt. So all the other problem is snares. So if you've heard about snares, snares are set up in Africa, simple piece of wire with a loop, catches any animal. So it's designed to catch bushmeat for people to eat, but it obviously catches anything as well. So anything from rhinos and elephants, lions, dogs, and so that's one of the biggest problems as well. There's a lot of work being done to try and remove these snares. If you have a look at the visitor centre on your way back as well, there are some snare wire items. They look really cool. All the wire that makes up those items are snares taken from Africa. So you know that by buying that, you're actually supporting the African people who make those items, those artworks, and the money is going directly back as well. So there's a lot of ways to help, and we've done some studies on site as well to do with domestic dog diseases, because domestic dog diseases in Africa, dogs aren't vaccinated, it can wipe out a pack of African dogs very, very quickly as well. So done some studies on site to sort of see what impact we can do from there. So I do have just a little turkey neck or two for the girls out here, so you can just see them move a little bit. I won't make them run around too much because you'll see one is a little bit limpy, but they're pretty tough, so she's improved already from where she was yesterday. Once I've thrown that over, we can wander over to the other side and I'll talk a little bit about our lions as well. Has anyone got any questions at all, first of all, hyena dogs? Carcasses we haven't actually done very often with the hyenas, mostly because we don't get something that's sort of large enough, I suppose. We also, because we usually feed them all individually, so we didn't know whether they were going to be, fighting and arguing or whatever, but they actually were pretty good. So we might try and do that once a week or something, so it's good bonding for them, yeah. 5 days a week, so all our carnivores are fed 5 days a week. Because they're pure carnivores, and in Africa they wouldn't eat every day, so it's good for them to have a clear out of their system. So twice a week. Yesterday was a feed-free day. Today they were all fed again. But if they have a large carcass, then we'll give them a feed-free day the next day as well, just to even it out. They do have a little bit of red paint. So as part of our introductions that we did yesterday, because we were introducing 4 males and the 2 females, now the markings on each dog is unique. So the white markings on them is how we can tell them all apart. So we do know who's who, but we just thought that when we put 6 in together and there's a bit of running around and carrying on, we thought we'll mark the 2 girls and then we can at least see who's chasing who or what's going on. So that's just, it's actually a fly repellent, so it'll just wash off. It's not actually paint. So that won't last there too long. But yeah, the white markings is what the African painted dogs are born with. So when they're born, they are completely dark brown, like the noses, like the muzzle on the dog, with the white markings. So we can take photos from birth, and that's the marking. So you'll see, there's only 2 to look at here, but some of them have quite unique markings or like an actual circle or something like that makes it easy to tell them apart from the distance. All right, I'll just switch off the microphone, toss over a little bit of food. They know the sound of it. Yeah.
Oh yes, oh a big sausage. Oh, and turkey neck, that's what she said.
Yeah. Right there. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's coming.
Yeah, there was some yeah. So we've got 6 female lions. We've got 2 male lions that were both born here. And then we've just recently received 3 new male lions from Melbourne Zoo. Oh yes, so if you look straight down the back, there is a little bit of movement under the trees back there. So this morning out on exhibit up until 12 o'clock, we had our 6 female lions out on exhibit. And they were part of the Lions 360 encounter. So if you look off to the left, there's a big cage dome there. So that encounter is a separate behind-the-scenes experience where you get to go in that dome, and then the lions come and climb all over the top of it, climb on top of that troopy, and you get to see the lions up nice and close. So the keepers have now brought in the 6 female lions. So through the trees off to the right, down the bottom, is where our lion night quarters are. If you go on the shuttle bus, you'll be able to, the bus you can see in the exhibit that goes around in a loop, you'll be able to see the night quarters there and understand what I'm explaining. So the females have come into there, and now the keepers have actually let out those 3 young males. So they're having a good old sniff and a spray on the trees. They can smell where the females have been. Those 3 males there are 3 years old, so they're nice and young. They're not yet in their prime of a breeding age. Well, if you're happy to wait up here for a little bit, the keepers will probably come up here and start calling them up towards the dome area. So you'll be able to have a look at their mane. They are starting to grow a mane. It's not fully developed yet. And they say that for a male, the darker the mane, the more impressive they are to the females. These three boys are still quite young, but you can see there is one that sort of looks darker already, and that will start to come through over the next year or so. So these three males here are our new breeding males. So we haven't bred lions here at Mونارتو for about 5 years, and we've been recommended to breed with these three boys. So we're now going to start the introduction process of these three boys with our 6 females. 3 of those females are 5 years old, and they're the ones that are earmarked to breed. So we'll just have to see how we go. Introducing lions can be a bit of hard work, and obviously they can do a lot of damage if they want to, so it's going to require a lot of fence contact, and a lot of one-on-one introductions and rotations, and hopefully we'll see how we go. So these three boys here are between 190 and 200 kilos in weight each, and they're really tall boys. So compared to our 2 males that we've got, they're kind of a bit shorter and stockier. It was really interesting when these 3 boys arrived because they are really, really tall. We have done a lot of trials with them now up at the dome here, and getting them to sort of stand up with their paws on the mesh, and they almost reach to the top of that mesh. So it's pretty impressive how far they can actually stretch up. So with the lions, they also get 2 feed-free days a week, and so yesterday being that day, so today they will all get fed. These boys are on about 6 kilos of feed, so quite a large amount. The females are on a little bit less than that. And we could weigh all our lions once a week, so we've got raceways that go into the night yards that have got weighing scales fitted in. So they're quite used to walking on those all the time. So once a week we stop them, get a weight. The females range in weight from 115 or so kilos up to 135 kilos, and then all the boys are in that sort of close to 200. So through winter they can tend to drop off weight a little bit, we'll increase their food and vice versa. So the girls don't probably get a true feed-free day a week because they're always involved in our Lions 360. It's their choice to participate in that encounter as well, so if they don't come over then they know that there's food there. If they don't, then they don't get food that day, which is fine, and if they come over then they get rewarded for that as well. So I encourage you to come and do that tour if you're interested in getting up close with our lions. We also do have a lions at bedtime encounter, which involves our hyenas and lions down in the night yards with being fed. It's not one of those tours today, but if you wanted to come in and do that another day, you get to come and meet the hyenas up close, as well as holding a big 5 kilo chunk of meat. Has anyone got any questions at all on lions in particular? They all get fed in the night yards at the end of the day. So the main food is their reward for coming in, and then up here with just the treats and turkey necks and little bits and things at the dome. Yep. So we do also do a lot of recalls with them. So we use a whistle to sort of call them in. So if we had to move them in an emergency or get them in a hurry or something, we blow the whistle and then they come running in. They know that they're going to get a big morsel of food and it's worth their while to sort of come in. So yeah, works well.
What sort of emergency would you bring them in?
I don't know.
Which fires?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, no, we definitely get a lot of fire threats around here. And if the zoo's closed, if it's 40 or catastrophic days as well, so we do keep an eye on that. We generally try and keep them in the night yards. We've got mister and sprinkler systems down on the facilities as well, so it's the safest place for them. But yeah, just like we've had, I don't know, we've had a bus blow a clutch before or something, and we have to. Yeah, which is fine. We just have to get the lines in. You want to get them in a hurry so we can tow the bus out or whatever. They'll only happen once, don't worry. Not happy today. No. So yeah, they're heading up this way, so depending on how long you're happy to stay up here, they will probably make their way up here. You can see them up there. Oh, at the moment they're just roaming around. They look like they're just, sniffing where the females have been, spraying the trees, so that's their way of marking the territory. And then, we'll see a few will start to come up here, and then they'll probably call them and get them to come up this direction. Alright, well thanks very much everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day out in Mونارتو.
Buildings at the back. Now it's a 2-room building. The chimney at the back would have been a separate kitchen, and this was home to a family of 7 until the 1950s. For older people like me, you could realise how significant it was. It's not actually that long ago to think that a family of 7 lived in such a small dwelling. No air conditioning, no internet. It's been beautifully restored by some TAFE students, and hopefully with the funds available, more restoration work can be done. I was doing a tour late last year, and one of the visitors got off at the bus and said he was one of the children, because there was grandma, mum, dad and 4 children, and they left here when he was 9. Going back down through the African plains. Hoping this ostrich doesn't dash across in front of us. So we've got some of our male ostriches. The pink beaks and the pink down the front of their legs is their indicators when it's coming into mating season. So they use their colour of their beak and legs to attract female. The eland, which are the brown animals that through here, are the largest of the African antelope. Both the males and the females have the horns. I love the giraffes, they make me smile every time I see them. This is a great volunteering role if anybody's interested in volunteering, being a guide. We're just coming up to the waterhole if anybody's wanting to get off of the bus and walk along and have a look at the giraffes closer up from the viewing platform, or have a look at the Tassie devils. Is anybody wanting to get off? Fortunately, we picked up some flies in our travels. Australia, summer, not much you can do about them, unfortunately. Last year. They are critically endangered, at risk of becoming extinct in the wild. So the fact that we're breeding them successfully here at Mmonarto and have bred over 30 is really important. Barbary sheep come from the Barbary soil. The Barbary sheep use their big horns to balance, and they're incredibly heavy. There's a set of horns in the visitor centre, and I can only just pick them up. They're very heavy. They're also very sure-footed, and they've got, oh wow, we're getting a brilliant look of an addax here on the left-hand side. You can see the coat's still got a bit of a browny tinge. One of their ways of dealing with the heat is that their coat goes darker in the winter to absorb the heat from the sun, and it gets lighter in the summer. They also have black skin under their fur, which protects them from UV radiation. Another young one. We each had 3 born in August, which was fantastic. We're in the rain shadow of the Mount Lofty Ranges here, so in a good year, or any other year really, Mmonarto gets about half the rainfall of Adelaide, and this has been an extremely long and dry period. Dry winter, dry spring, and we're having an excessively dry summer. We do have 2 creeks here. On the left-hand side is Dry Creek, no arguments, and on the right-hand side over there is Rocky Gully Creek. They do flow occasionally when there's a very heavy rain up here. The last time was in 2011, and when they do flow, they run into the Murray River. Our last habitat on the left-hand side are our scimitar horned oryx. They're the only species we have at Mmonarto that are extinct in the wild. And again, we've got a successful breeding population here at Mmonarto. There've been over 20 born. Just get through the trees and have a look. They're named after their beautiful scimitar-shaped horns, which can grow up to 1 metre in length. Like the addax, because they are related, addax are part of the oryx group of antelope. They have the same adaptations for coping with extremes in climate. But sadly, they no longer exist in the wild, and highly unlikely they'll be able to be returned to the wild because they have been hunted to extinction for their horns. They also suffer from disruption of habitat because they also come from the Sahara Desert. Oil exploration, interventions by humans, unfortunately, has resulted in them being extinct in the wild. just heading back towards the visitor centre. I'd like to thank you for coming to Mونارتو today. Mونارtو Zoo is a non-profit conservation organisation, and we rely on your attendance and the money that you pay coming into Mونارtو to continue research and conservation work to ensure species, the survival of species. So I'd like to thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. We're just going up to the other bus stop, so when you get off in just a moment, just walk down the path and you'll be back where you started with the first bus stop. Thank you very much.
هنروح نشوف الشمبانزي، وهو بيوصل طوله لمتر و20 سنتي، وعمره بيتراوح ما بين 40 ل50 سنة. مشهور يعني في كذا نوع من الشمبانزي. في نوع اسمه بومبو، والنوع التاني اللي هو الشمبانزي المعتاد. البومبو هو اللي عمره بيوصل ل40، والشمبانزي المعتاد بيوصل ل50 سنة. الوزن بتاع البومبو بيوصل ما بين 34 ل60 كيلو. الشمبانزي اللي هو المشهور من 40 ل60 كيلو. وعادة الشمبانزي موجود في أفريقيا الاستوائية، يعني عن قريب من خط الاستواء. وده التفاصيل بتاعة الشمبانزي، واسيبكم تستمتعوا معاه.
On his mouth and his arm, gash.
Yeah, some injuries.
Yeah. Maybe from fighting.
هنشوف لقطة بس كده للشكل الحمامات والفاسيلتيز اللي في جنينة الحيوانات، وازاي هم يعني مهتمين بيها. وده كده من الخارج، وان في مكان للمعوقين، وهنا بيبيعوا سوفينيرز، وبيجمعوا تبرعات للزو نفسها وللشمبانزي بصفة خاصة. بيبيعوا ممكن تقف تتصور وتعرف حجمك قد ايه بالنسبة للشمبانزي. وهنا المكان الازاز دوت فيه بعض الشمبانزي الصغير او المولودين حديثا. يعني هو المكان دوت طبعا مولود مفتوح على المكان التاني، ولكن ده نوع من اللي هو وقاية من البرد والحر والمطر وكده. يعني يا رب تكونوا استمتعتوا معانا في الحلقة ديت. انا عارف انها طويلة لكنها مليانة معلومات. اشتركوا، شير، ولايك، ونشوفكم على خير، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.